Welcome to This Old App, a podcast about learning, coding, smashing stuff together, breaking things apart, startups, failing, winning, and any other buzzwords we can think of.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
So, it's early 2020. We were looking for topics to discuss, and I brought up a couple of different ideas, and we both realized we don't know a ton about them, but there's an overall general theme that we can cover a bunch of tech, and I don't know what will come up with a title, but it'll be something along like, is X technology a bunch of crap?
Okay.
Or still a bunch of crap, or maybe it's legit and I don't know. We'll start with blockchain.
Okay.
I've dabbled with it. Ethereum? Solidity? Is that something I did before?
That sounds right.
I did a tutorial on it on Udemy, and then it was like, okay, it's kind of interesting. Crypto, whatever. And then I found it too problematic right now to be adopted, like something that I would adopt and chase.
Right.
But when I talk to young developers, they bring it up all the time. Like when I ask what they're working on or what they want to get into, blockchain, Ethereum is always, and they can't really explain what they are doing with it other than, I think, proving ownership of stuff.
Right.
So they're creating a chain of ownership, a title. Is that what all this is about? Is like a digital encrypted title for everything?
I think it's more a digital encrypted ledger of everything. Yeah.
But isn't a title like associated with that? Isn't that how it? Like, if you want to prove ownership, you got to prove title.
Sure. Oh, you meant that kind of title? Yes.
Yeah. There's a ledger, like scenario. I mean, and I'm not going to dive into the details of how blockchain works because I can't do it that well, or I forget after I've learned it. But have you heard anything about blockchain in the last year that has made you think, oh, maybe it's kicking in full gear now?
No, but my feeling on it is that it's going to be slowly and then all of a sudden. And that's a quote from something, I can't remember what. But right now we're in that slowly phase of, you see little dribs and drabs of news articles here and there about it. What I think will happen is that it's actually going to catch on really hot on the enterprise side. And so therefore, for those who are doing, consulting web work and learning stuff on their own, they're not going to hear a lot about it. But then all of a sudden, it's going to reach this critical mass within enterprise to where it's actually useful and doing easier to approach, I guess is the best way to put it. I think that's the way this is going to work out, is that the enterprise is going to adopt it before we see it in general consumption. But that's a guess based on knowing the players involved.
So is this going to, because right now it's kind of, you got to be a developer to mess with it, really. It's just not, right. It's not simple enough. So is it something where they abstract it? Like you don't know that's really there, it's just being handled?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be the backbone of a lot of stuff, and you're not going to realize it's there.
A developer building an app related to blockchain will have to work with it,
right? But there's going to be some APIs or some interfaces where you're doing some stuff and you're doing some transactions, and you're going to find out in the end that they're executing it through blockchain is a guess of mine.
Do you think it's safe to say that as a developer, if you were to still be chasing this, is it chasing the horse? Chasing, what do you call? If you're still chasing this one, um, that is that you need to find a API or a remote service to handle most of it. Like trying to run this stuff locally on your own server, the power needed and the speed needed is kind of ridiculous, and you won't really have it locally.
Is that true for all blockchain, or is that just true for mining cryptocurrency?
Well, I don't know. That's a different BS topic.
Right. I don't think the computational requirements are that high for blockchain itself. I think it's when you're mining cryptocurrency because they've done it so much that it's like searching for numbers of pi. They're so far out there that you have to spend more time doing
But
it.
still, a blockchain, there's a significant level of crypto, right, that you have to perform.
There is, but I don't think it's to the level of creating a new quote Bitcoin,
Okay.
because creating one Bitcoin requires days and weeks of computational power, of high computational
Yeah.
power.
Okay. Well, we haven't solved anything with this discussion, but I think I kind of do see the path that you're talking about is that it's bigger firms will determine how it's used and if it's used and that kind of thing.
Right, and big companies are going to use it between themselves, and then that's going to provide the examples needed for it to scale down to the consumer level.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next one is one I know you're real big on, and I'm not, and that's VR in general.
Why am I? Oh, because I enjoyed doing it in Disney.
No, because you're always when we have conversations offline, you have talked in the past about how you think that VR is going to be a big thing and a big consumer thing, and I still haven't seen I haven't seen it work itself out in the common marketplace. So I don't. Where do you think VR is going?
Oh, it's still going. I mean, it's still moving forward. It's just most of the companies that are working on it are going to lose their shirts. The technology will live past the company's lifespan, and it is the future of movies and media and gaming and all that good stuff. They had I played the new Oculus Link. Is that the name of it?
I don't know. Could be.
That's the stuff you should know after I talked to you before. But when so
That requires me having an
so
interest.
2 years ago when I played with Oculus at a friend's house, they had a really heavy ass helmet, device that you wear in your face, and it was wired. It was wired to a computer, and you had to put up like sensors or some kind of devices up in the corners of the room so that it could figure out the map of triangulate the map of the room. And that was 2 to 3 years ago. And this Christmas, a relative bought the Oculus. I'm going to call it the Link. Maybe I'm wrong. Which was a lighter device, not hooked directly to a computer. It was linked to a computer with Bluetooth or whatever. Maybe, excuse me, Wi-Fi, but it wasn't. It didn't have. You didn't have to have a PC with you to use it, and you did not need the devices in the corner. You basically drew a map and around the room, and it used that. And it would just know where
Sure.
you are, and it worked. It worked really, really well. Very impressed. And I think the next feature they're adding to this particular device is hand tracking. So instead of you having to use these like kind of clunky holder, like handheld hold things, controllers, it'll just see your hands. So I played of course, Star Wars related thing, which was clunky. The game was clunky in how you move around and stuff, but it worked and it was fun. And so they need to get there's so many things they need to advance. They need it to be faster. They needed the graphics to be HD. They need the sound to be Dolby whatever. They need the device power to last longer than 30 minutes. They need let's see what else would be huge. I mean, they need to be able to have multiplayer, internet connection. They need more games. But I'll say that in 3 years, I saw what I thought was closer to the future than the clunky mess of stuff that my friends had before. In the sense of the setup, it was still fun. What I played with my friends was fun, but it was also like, wow, that's a lot of setup. That's a lot of buying a lot of stuff. And what my relative bought with the Link thing was, oh, that's closer to what I would want.
Yeah, and my son-in-law is actually big on this as well. But he did share a funny story which is interesting. He was playing a game and it was a port of another game as opposed to being natively VR, and that's important, and we'll talk about it in a second. And he was moving around and he ended up falling off a cliff. And in a native VR game, they don't allow things like that because of what happened. So he fell off the cliff and he visually saw the falling off the cliff and he visually felt it. He felt he had to rip the headset off because it was that intense of falling off that cliff. So the difference between native and a port is native, they build in the guardrails so that you don't do anything that's so visually disorienting or visually disturbing that you won't get enjoyment from it.
Or they put your mom in the game to yell at you to get away from the edge. Because that's what I would have heard that from my mom. In a realistic sense, my mom would have been there saying, "Quit going so close to the edge." That would have been a realistic VR experience. But
and maybe that's the game to write is your mom yelling at you.
But but I would think he liked it still, the game, right? Like he liked the experience.
Oh yeah, he liked the experience, but that particular instance was like, oh, I'm done for the day. It was so visually disorienting, and it wasn't that it was dizzying; it was that he literally felt like he was falling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he was like, I'm done.
So then, what part of VR?
I think that's
what part of VR do you think is BS? You think it will never amount to anything?
I don't think it's going to be. I think it's always going to be niche. You're a proponent of the side that it's going to be everything, and I'm a proponent of the side that no, for the maybe 20 years from now it won't be, but for the foreseeable future it's going to be niche because I don't think people want to get up and physically exert themselves in a way that VR needs you to. Now, one thing I think might be interesting is Microsoft is releasing their flight simulator, a new version of their flight simulator sometime this year. And it is visually stunning. If it actually showed in the demo clip, it actually showed flying over Orlando. Why they had Orlando in there, I have no idea. But it showed flying over Orlando, and it was instantly recognizable to me. that's where they were, because that's how detailed the buildings and everything were. Um, and they've said that they are working very hard to make it VR ready on launch day. So that's one where you just have the headset, you're sitting at your desk and you're flying and you're using the VR set to look around. That is one instance where I could see it working very well. I don't see it replacing, I don't see VR Fortnite being the number one game anytime in the near next 10,
Wow,
15
I like
years. That's too much
I
effort for
think
people.
I think that's so wrong. Like I think that there you're talking about VR where you got to run around in a circle in a room or something. I'm talking about, I mean, maybe you're strapped to a chair or a harness, like on Ready Player One. He sat in this weird kind of harness suit and never, I guess, used the bathroom in it. Like it was, he lived in this thing. It's like the Matrix. Like that's if you can replicate the experience of falling off a cliff, then I would think you could replicate walking around with and playing a game without actually moving, without falling off. Like so, I guess I'm looking for more about why VR wouldn't work. And you're saying, well, people don't want to physically move around, like Wall-E. Like the future is Wall-E. We're all sitting in hovering chairs and little robots do everything for us. But the bigger question, I think, is you don't think an immersive media experience like VR is the future in the next decade?
No, I just don't think it's going to be mainstream enough.
Interesting. Because I think
I don't think they can visually get it there to where people will be willing to make that their primary game. To use Fortnite as an example, I don't think that'll be their primary game. I think there'll be a VR Fortnite that 10 to 25% of the people are playing, but it's not going to be a
is that
majority.
because of I guess the question is this: do you think it's because of technology limitations or user demand, desire?
Both. I don't think you're going to get. Well, you know what? I'm willing to even overlook the technology implications, because I think if you provide a good enough experience, people aren't going to be real picky about the visual details. I just don't see it becoming a big thing with. I don't see people accepting that as what they want to do.
So,
It's a
so we
gut
went to
feeling.
Disney, and we went.
Yeah.
This is like last year, or maybe 2 years
Yep.
ago. Was it two?
At
Two
least
years
two,
ago, I
probably.
go to Disney with you, and we went on all these different rides, and we waited everywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. But one particular ride, one experience, had a 3 hour wait.
It runs anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours. Yes, we probably
And
waited
that was
two
the VR
plus.
thing at a place that basically the whole compound of Orlando, the whole city of Orlando is based upon, the economy is based upon unique user experiences that run the gamut of logs on a wavy river to drop you in a fake hotel elevator. And the one ride that everyone was on for 3 hours that we all came off of saying, holy crap, that was awesome, was the VR ride. And you still think nobody
Yeah,
wants that?
I
It
don't
was
think
based
it's
on one of the
mainstream.
worst
I think.
blockbuster movies of all time. It was Avatar, which, yeah, made a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I watched it again. I actually liked it again. And all right, it was enjoyable, I should say. I didn't. The storyline was Dances with the Wolves, but the but I'm just like, how? I don't know. This is one of those hard ones for me to compute. Um,
All I'm saying is, yes, it can be immersive and it can be an awesome experience. It's not going to be mainstream. That's the difference I'm
all
drawing.
right. This is one where I think we'll come back on this old app year 6 or 7, and we'll be talking about this episode about how wrong you were. I think that's one I do think. Um,
All right, you set up the calendar entry. I'll be glad to talk about the mistakes you made on it for sure.
And then we'll talk about how Avatar 3 was only a VR movie, and you were the first one in line after waiting like a 3-hour wait.
Yeah, that ain't
All
happening.
right, so next one, AI. Is that a good one?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
This one's been around forever, man. I mean, ever since I thought about a career in tech, artificial intelligence has been discussed theoretically, on the verge of it, prototypes, everything. Like, it's just, it's, I don't know. To me, it's just a bunch of crap rights still. Like, it's just the idea that we can make a computer as smart or as intelligent as the human brain. This is one where I definitely think enterprise would take advantage of it if they could ever get the power, like if they could ever harness enough power to do it right. But it's just, I don't think the tech isn't there.
Well, and see, this is another one where you're wrong. Um,
Oh
it
yeah,
exists today. It's mainstream today. It's more mainstream than VR is. So it exists. You almost have to define
sure.
what you mean by AI in order to properly evaluate it.
So
Are we talking about a Turing test
yeah.
capable machine?
Well,
What are we
I'm not
talking
talking
about?
about automated decision making. Like, anyone can write that stuff now.
Yeah,
I'm talking about something that I'm talking about an intelligent machine that gets smarter over time and doesn't need subsequent updates, so to speak, to improve. It's that smart. Like, independent thinking. I mean, so what do you mean when you say AI is in mainstream use? Like, what kind of level?
I mean, I would argue that Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant to some degree are self-learning
Blah,
already without quote
nah.
updates. They're not great, but they're
You think
improving,
that Alexa's AI?
and I think they're improving on their own.
I don't know about that. Is AI and help assistance the same thing? I don't think so. They're applications, but they're not artificial intelligence.
Yeah, again, I think we come back to we need better definitions because if we're t- I think it qualified for most of what you're looking for. You're looking for something that improves itself without an update. I do think Amazon and Google push updates
Oh, sure.
to those platforms, but I also think that those platforms learn on their own and refine
I mean, I
words
don't
they
need it to be
hear on their own.
Skynet, but it's got to, like, AI, the promise of AI is way beyond telling Google or Alexa to open the new automatic shades in my living room. Like, that's not artificial. Like, that's just an
Yeah,
application that takes an input and then does something.
that's just voice input. Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know what they're learning because mine
What
hasn't learned anything in the sense of it hasn't adjusted to voice um, changes, accent, new users. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't adjust. due to different inputs and problems that it has faced?
Well, here's a different example, and again, we're going to get hung up on definitions, so we're either going to have to just go with
Yeah.
it or figure out a definition. But my keyboard on my phone, I use SwiftKey for my keyboard on my phone. Okay,
Yeah.
it adjusts what key I'm trying to hit based on the previous 1,000 times I've tried to hit a B and I've hit the space bar instead. It then moves the target for B down. So that's learning, but I don't think that's what you're looking for. So what are you looking for out of AI before you go, yeah, this is what I was looking for?
I mean, I guess the idea is critical thinking. Does that help at all? Like
Okay, sure.
to know when that, like, there are multiple meanings to a request. To sort there was a to you, and even the human brain has to put probability to what is being asked to me and make a guess. Um, so the input a machine or a brain intelligence has to be able to take an input, discern the input, like what the input is asking for, troubleshoot through a wide range of experience and memories and knowledge. Do I know how to fix this? And then go and reach out and find the answer to solve to execute what the input needs or to reject it. And I don't see any of these smart assistants, doing anything remotely like that at all.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you there, and I'll agree that a mainstream Turing test capable AI process is not anywhere in the near future. To where you're going to use it every day and you're going to talk to it like it's a person, and it's gonna seem like it's just another person. I don't think that's going to exist for quite a while, if ever. Um, there are too many things the human brain considers, and too many nuances that I think we get there. So I think we're in agreement there. It's just a question of what are you looking for out of your AI before you decide if
I mean,
it's
I don't even know how it was
overhyped or
smart
not.
enough to give you that description of AI. Like that was pushing my own brain limits, because I was like, how did I just say that? Like, it is a very wide range of what we expect AI to do, but I feel like there's a
Right.
huge difference between programming and an application. The only thing different about a smart assistant is that you're not typing the request into it. It's taking audio.
That's voice. It's voice input. It's a voice input app, and to some degree, I'll agree with you that that's not quite AI. I think the machine learning it does on the voice is an aspect of AI. The commands it executes is you're right, just a voice enabled app. But the work it does to refine the voice input is what I'm classifying as
Okay.
AI.
Well, I think we're a long ways off on legit AI like I described.
Well, let's go to a very specific instance of AI, and let's talk about
Yeah.
driverless cars. So my Tesla does okay. Okay, and is that AI? No, no. For most, I would say that the Tesla is further from AI than a lot of things because it's not improving itself. It's collecting data letting the programmers review all that data from all the Teslas and make adjustments and pushing updates. So it's not even self-improving at this point. But when I drove to Atlanta a few months ago, 90+% of the driving on the highway, the only time I touched the wheel was to provide input to the car that I was still there. Because it was able to manage speed, it was able to manage safe distance between cars, it was able to react to construction zones with construction barriers, things like that. So for the most part, it was able to handle all of that. It's not perfect. There's one stretch of road near our house that if I take that stretch of road at night and I try to set it even, this isn't even self-driving. This is more the adjusted cruise control. If I set that to go, it's a hilly area with not a lot of lights. So whatever sensors are seeing the next hill and thinking it's a stopped car. And so it likes to slow down real quick because it thinks it's coming up on something, which is really weird because that seems like it's something easy to handle. But that's kind of where that exists. What are you hearing from outside the driverless car community?
So I read an article yesterday in Wired about Waymo in Phoenix, Arizona,
Sure.
where I think they've done more miles of automated rides than anywhere else. And now I remember we went to Phoenix 5 years ago, and very kind of boring, like easy to. It's got a very easy environment. It's flat, not a lot of high, tall buildings. Visuals seem like I always remember being able to kind of like you weren't in a cavern of buildings and stuff, and therefore you had decent sunlight in most places. Maybe not in the heart of downtown, but it wasn't, it didn't seem that difficult of a place to figure out things in terms of mapping and direction. So if Phoenix, I mean, I didn't know. When I read this article, I was like, holy crap, I didn't know they were doing this. I knew that someone had died about 4 or 5 years ago and they had suspended operations in places, but I didn't know that they were doing driverless rides sharing kind of stuff for people in Phoenix. Like that was a big eye opener to me. So I guess based on that, reading that article, I'm like, oh, this is 5 years away.
Yeah, I think in limited areas that's true. It's not going to be everywhere. It's going to be where are the roads well marked, where's the traffic patterns mostly predictable. If we talk about driverless cars for like a driverless Uber or something like that, is going to definitely be in places that are well mapped out. I was going to say places like on Disney property, but then my brain immediately rejected that because I can't predict the drivers on Disney property, and I've driven it for decades.
It's going to be about, one, do you have strong internet, broadband? Because that allows for instant updates on road conditions and traffic. That's one thing. The mapping has to be accurate to a fault in the sense of that car has to know exactly the length and width of that road and the lanes and all that kind of stuff. So we're not talking like Google taking a picture of a house that's fuzzy on the side. It's like there has to be a very accurate, I'm assuming there has to be a very accurate mapping of the area, which is if you do 1,000 rides in Phoenix, that's a hell of a lot easier than that scenario you said in your neighborhood out in the suburbs. Um,
Right.
the 5G internet thing we'll talk about in a little bit is like a big. They need broadband. They need a very strong and fast wireless connection for these cars. And I think it,
Yeah, and but that sets the base. That really just sets the base
yeah,
for the driving. It still needs all the sensors and all the cameras and all that to react
yeah.
to conditions. I actually think the mapping is probably about as good as it needs to get. I think it's the sensors and the cameras and the AI in the computer, the AI in the car to interpret all those things
I would
properly and
think too
react
that the ability
properly.
for the cars to talk to each other about position, speed, what have you, what they see ahead, may be of importance. No,
A little, a little. If all cars could talk, yes. But the fact that it's going to be only a few talking, and when they see each other and they talk and exchange information, yes. But until that number reaches 90+%, I don't think so. That's too many variables of the dumb cars,
to me it feels like if
for
they
lack of a
can,
better
if
term.
they, if like an Uber can get to a point of not having drivers, they'll scale the hell out of the like they'll push like the financial incentive to eliminate the risk and cost of a workforce, a human workforce, will push this thing faster than we've ever seen. Not where you own a car, but where a
Yeah,
fleet is owned and you just subscribe to it.
right, right. And I think we're still a ways away. One example is the Tesla I have has smart summon where you can be at a place in a parking
Uh-huh.
lot and you can tell the car to come to you. Um, it does not work where you just press a button and the car drives around the parking lot and comes to you. One, the car can never be more than 200 feet away from you. So if it's got to go to the end of an aisle and that aisle
Hmm.
has more than 200 feet, it just stops. Um, if it is excruciatingly slow. It's like your grandmother's driving through the parking lot. Um, and it's very, very conservative. If it sees anything out of the way, it just stops and waits for that condition to clear or for it to reinterpret what's going on. So, example is I had it come to me through a parking lot, and it backed out of the space, but it didn't back out of the space like I would have backed out of the space. It backed out and then it did about three or four back and forths, slightly turning each time until it got into the aisle and went forward. So, and I think that's it being a little too conservative.
Well,
Um,
you did just
so that
you did
example
describe
just
how my
shows me it's got a
grandmother
long way to go.
drove through the parking lot. Like, oh my god! At one time, I was like, she just said after doing exactly what you said, pulling out, adjusting. She's like, and I was 15, so I really didn't have a license. She's like, "Do you just want to do this for me?" I was like, "Sure, Grandma." Like, so do you use it anymore? Because I remember the video you posted showing it. Is it just easier to walk over to the dang thing?
It's easier to walk over the thing. I do use it occasionally. And the reason I use it occasionally is I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help train it because I figure the more I use it, the more feedback that the Tesla
Well,
engineers are
let me
getting and the
just say,
more
I
they
hope
can
I
improve
don't go
it.
to Publix when
So
you do. If you're training your car,
I try to pick parking lots that are not
but
very
do you
busy
think
when I'm doing it.
a decade from now, do you think that the driverless car will be as mainstream as Uber and Lyft?
A decade from now, no. In
I think it'll
limited
be
areas,
5
maybe.
years.
Um, I think in limited areas you could see it. Other than that, the legislation and the liability isn't there
I think in
to
5 years
compensate for it.
we're gonna have trucks making the shipping trucking industry turn upside down from an
Different
but it will
question,
also
because
that
I
will
agree with you there.
push, so that will happen, and then the commuter thing will happen shortly thereafter because the number.
But again, this is all going to be the everything but the last mile, right? So this is getting on the
With a big,
highway to
yeah,
getting off the highway.
with a
It's
big
those
truck,
last
yeah, yeah,
miles
yeah.
that are the hard
um,
ones. I mean, certainly for cross country trucking, absolutely.
but you're going,
That is
what
very
happens,
close.
this is what I feel is going to happen. The trucks driving safely will lead to a change in safety numbers, statistics for safety, and also the efficiency of a ride that doesn't need to go to sleep. Like a driver doesn't need to sleep on those. You can stay on the international
Yeah.
interstate highway across the United States from LA to New York without ever needing to stop except for fuel. And you can put a fuel thing on the side that's really easy for a truck to get to. Drone.
Or better yet, a driverless
Yeah, yeah, or a
refuel in a
drone or
truck.
something. Oh yeah, we should talk about drone delivery.
Yeah. Drone's a bit much, but just because of how much it has to carry.
Don't
But
don't
yes,
don't kill my
I think
don't kill my
the
drone
only thing I'll say
dreams.
is we I don't think we'll be at a point within 5 years where there won't be a driver in the seat. I don't think liability and legislation will allow it, but the driver actually doing anything will be there in 5 years, to where there's a driver there, but he's not really doing anything. I don't think we're going to get very far in that's a truck going cross country without a person in it. I'm not sure we're going to get there in 5 years. So let's move on to 5G, which you brought up. And I think this is a quick one. And communication spectrums are going to continue to improve, but it's funny to watch the commercials on the 5Gs, because you watch a T-Mobile commercial and they're like, our 5G can go miles instead of these others that can only go blocks. What they're not telling you is that their 5G that can go miles is also 10 times slower than the 5G that's very concentrated. There's two very distinct flavors of 5G out there right now. The T-Mobile flavor, which has more range, is slower. It's faster than 4G, but it's certainly not the broadband speed of what the 5G
isn't it
promise
more that
was.
like you have to like the reality of it is it's a fatter yet shorter signal, and you have to have these repeaters, like insane numbers of repeaters.
That is part of it, but that's what I'm saying is that there's actually two flavors of it. In that the T-Mobile flavor is one where they've made the spectrum
Well, I
not as
know, but that's not
fat,
legit.
so
Like
that it can
that
go
isn't what
farther.
we're talking about, I guess, in my mind.
Right. That's right. 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 And but that it is 5G. It's technically
Yeah.
using the 5G spectrum, I think. So there, it's important, and we're not talking to the standard consumer here, but it's important for the standard consumer to even understand that exists. And
So
I'm not sure the standard
it's
consumer will
not a
understand
crap
that.
tech. It's just that it's going to take a substantial amount to
No,
install the real thing. And the crap side of it is that folks are kind of bastardizing it. Is that the yeah.
is the crappy marketing of it. Yes. I do think this is, of everything we talked about, this is the closest one to reaching the promise. We're only talking a matter of a couple years before your big ones like your Verizons and your AT&Ts have 5G repeaters everywhere. And they figured out a way to even allow you to put a 5G repeater in your home, or an antenna in your home, to where you can help the neighborhood and help yourself. I don't think we're
So
far
here's
from
the
that.
next one that we didn't bring up before, but I'm going to bring it up now because I mentioned it. Drone delivery. Is it crap or
Yeah.
not crap?
No, no, it's a real thing. Um, Again, we're probably talking about we're talking about your urban areas versus your suburbs. Um, they're not going to be able to ship me a new shirt from the Amazon warehouse in, middle of nowhere, Florida, to my house in suburban Orlando. The first drone delivery is going to be in very concentrated spots. And are you, when you say drone delivery, are you only speaking airborne drones, or are you also talking land drones?
Both.
Yeah,
But I'm the fun thing is air.
of course. I think the easiest road to implementation is what I see. I don't know if you see it now that you're out in the suburbs, but what I see around holiday time is UPS driving, their normal truck to a certain area and then using a golf cart to all the different, using a golf cart to shuttle back and forth to their main truck, because that's faster and more efficient than driving their big truck everywhere, because they have such a concentration of packages. So
Yeah.
I could see a UPS truck pulling into a cluster of neighborhoods and deploying 10 drones to drive out and drop packages and come back and get more, and so on and so forth.
I mean, my neighborhood has more golf carts than cars on the road, so
Right.
I know that's going to work.
Right. I certainly think ground drone, it's easy. Air drone, you have your legislation liability problems. You have your drone hunters out there who will gladly shoot down a drone just because it's fun. Um, so the legislation has to catch up. Um, but sure, I could see it happening to a significant amount in the next 5 years.
But think about the risk, not the theft risk around a drone pirates. Like if we got porch
Yeah.
pirates,
Yeah.
and those folks have, like you have a video of someone stealing your stuff. Like
Yeah.
if all of a sudden you put a bunch of high value packages in a robot, that's open game. Nobody is worried about manslaughter charges and attacking a freaking robot full of stuff of Bose headphones. So I don't. That's where I'm kind of curious. Like that's where the air drone comes into a little bit more. Um, I think that's maybe safer from a theft
Yeah,
standpoint.
but even your ground drones aren't just going to be little robots with a package on top that just drops and goes. It's going to be an enclosed safe for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not going to have the package on the outside. You actually have to break into the drone. And those will have cameras and alerts and all that sort of stuff, to where I don't see that particularly being an issue.
Well, I'm looking forward to my first drone by flight delivery.
Yeah.
And I can tell the AI that is processing our podcast right now, tell Jeff Bezos that I have 2 awesome landing spots for the drones, and they can use me as a test subject. I got no trees that would block it. Like it's got a very good, like nothing, no obstructions, straight up, straight down kind of deal. Perfect for drone testing. So
And I think a neighborhood like yours is a good place for it. A nice self-contained
yeah,
neighborhood that isn't I don't know how many trees you have, but I know you've got a big lake in the middle that it can use to navigate. I think a neighborhood like yours is a good neighborhood.
So I'm going to use blockchain to buy an Oculus Link, which will then be delivered by drone. What was the other thing? Using
VR.
5G.
Using 5G. You got them all.
And then 5 years, that will be the like, oh yeah, you just did that? Yeah, I've did that already about a few months ago. That's so normal now. That's where I think all of this tech is leading up to.
Yeah,
now
we're a ways away. We're not 5 years away, but we're going to have some of that.
Here's the non-tech question: are you going to be in Waterworld in 5 years, or will you still be living on land? That's the question.
No, Florida won't be underwater in 5 years. Maybe parts of it, but not all of it.
Just the parts you don't like Miami, Tampa, and Miami. You're like, I don't care. Is that it?
Yeah.
Is that all of our?
I think you hit them all. I think you hit every single one of them.
The title for this week will be "Still Crap?" ? And then I'll just list all the tech. That might be it. This might be the first time.
That sounds good.
We've named the episode in the episode.
Yeah, sounds right.
All right, cool.
All right, well, we'll catch you again in a while.
All right, talk to you later.
Thanks for listening to This Old App. Show notes and previous episodes can be found on our website at www.thisoldapp.online. Reviews on Apple iTunes are always appreciated and help promote the show. For questions, comments, or things you would like to hear on future shows, please email us at hello@thisoldapp.online. Show music is Guns Blazing by Fab Claxton, licensed by Pond 5. Voiceover work by MeganVoices.com. You'll hear from us soon.